I walked out of the stage and there were lots of people waiting to give the business card, waiting to talk to me and all that. So the Sharad, who is the founder, CEO of this one-man company at that time, he also stood. He got this 15, 20 seconds where he talked about what he wants to do, the problem he wants to solve. And I really got excited about him and the problem he's solving. So I gave him my Bangalore address and I said, would it be possible for you to come down to Bangalore? And I want to spend more time with you. He said, yeah, tell me when I should come. And I gave him a date. Then he flew in, and I spent like half a day. And I gave him a lot of feedback. And then I went to the US, and he came and worked on the whole business plan, came and pitched the whole thing to me. And in 3 months, I decided, hey, I'm going to fund you. And I also brought a lot of other investors, which then went on to become the leading data center company in India. Right? So they are the largest data center. Everybody that you can think of is their customer in India. So going back to the elevator pitch, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, when you hit the right guy, that's the story you need to tell. And that's all the time you get. So if you can impress yourself, the problem you are solving, and who is going to benefit from this, then you have done a good job. Okay, any questions? Should we go through some exercises or you want to take a break or just go? If you want, or we can just continue. Oh, one other thing. One of the things I do in a 5-day class, which I don't do in a 3-day class, is, for those of you who are interested, which I think would benefit, is those of you who have companies or who have ideas, it gives an opportunity for you to actually create a business plan. I'll give the template. I'll share the template, but you have to work hard the next 4 days, right? Because we don't have time. We have classes every day. And I don't expect you to produce the best business plan, right? The idea here is the thought process. The thought process that you need to go through. And I used to do this in my class, in Santa Clara University. Of course, that used to be a 3-month class. And I used to give this template in the beginning, and there used to be 2.5 months. But what it gave as an opportunity to the students is, some of you who have ideas, you form a group, 4 or 5 people, and now all of a sudden, you have brains, 4 or 5 brains coming together and expanding on the template to create a business plan. Okay? So there's some research you need to do, there's some work you need to do, you need to fill up and create a presentation. And on the last day, I want each group to come and present. Everybody in the group should at least talk about 1 slide or 2 slides. Right? And it gives a great opportunity to go through this exercise. Those of you who are interested to participate in this, just let me know, or you can raise your hands now, and I'll share the template with you. Take a look at it. We can share that today itself. I'll send it to you. And take a look at it, and any questions you have, feel free to ask me the questions via email or maybe tomorrow or so. And then work on it, and maybe we can dedicate 1 hour on Friday for 2-3 presentations that you guys, may want to come and practice. I think it's and I'll give some feedback, and maybe I'll try to get a couple of the people as well. Manish, maybe I can invite a couple of the people to give the feedback. Make sense? Yeah. I'll give you that template. So we'll send that today, and those who are interested Yeah, feel free to fill that if you're interested. And others, not everybody has to do it. You can join hands with others who have the idea and contribute, because everybody is learning during the process. Okay? Any questions? You want to take a 5-minute break?
Questions are important.
Huh?
Questions are important.
Questions are very important. Yes. I hope
Sir,
you created an environment where you feel comfortable asking questions. Right? Yes. Of the company, you want to create it. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, at what stage you want to create the intellectual property, which is a patent, right? Because there is some money associated with it. It's not cheap. The creation of the IP, intellectual property, is not cheap. So my recommendation is, you don't need to do this day one, and as you are building out your company, your product, and customer base, and all of that, once you find a real breakthrough in an idea, that is something that you want to patent. Somehow mobilize the cash and then go on. So you don't need to, you can actually patent a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you patent. But you know yourself, there'll be one or two main algorithm breakthroughs that you have got. And that is something you don't want others to copy. Okay? So how will people copy? When they actually start listening to you about the idea and then start asking questions, and you may disclose how you solve this problem, right? That's when, so that will not happen for at least 1 to 2 years. 1 to 2 years, you don't need to worry about the core part of the stuff that you're working on to be disclosed in detail. Even to the customer, you just say this is a patented algorithm, and this is what we have solved the problem, which gives you this benefit. Yeah, like for example, we had in my company, we had a technology that we had built where our whole claim was the speed with which we can process the packets. This is my second company. It was called a load balancer. A load balancer is the one where it sits in front of thousands of servers, and dynamically we can balance the load based on millions of people who are coming in through the browsers. You send these traffic to the websites, and the speed with which we could do it was almost like, if this is a gigabit per second incoming, I can actually send it. After making the decision, I can send it at gigabits per second with very minimal latency. So when we talked about it, this was actually one of the intellectual properties of the company. And it's hard, by the way, it was very hard. Even if somebody learns about this, the concept, it's impossible to figure that out technologically. Okay? That was concepts we had. So you tell the customer says, I don't believe you. Because in the past, the only way you could do that was putting a chip. You have to put a chip in order to get that speed. And so you are telling me that with no chip, you can actually achieve this wire speed with this much latency? I said, yeah, that's what our IP is. I don't believe you. Fine. I'll give you my box. You test it out. You see for yourself. So then they used to take the box and they test it out. They said, wow. And now they start talking about it. right? So then, this is how you get through. And then once it starts generating it, then we went and patented it. Because we didn't have money at that time to go and patent. So we got to the level where we won a bunch of customers, we got some revenue, and then we went and patented. Yes, we can apply for a provisional patent. I mean, that's a process, by the way. So you apply and you get a provisional patent. So what that means is your patent paper will be now made completely available. And because patent is not issued, somebody now can actually copy this. Somebody can see this because we would have given a lot of details. Somebody can copy it. If somebody copies, you can actually sue them. Even though patent has not been approved yet, it's a provisional patent, and because you filed it, you have the documentation that you filed on this day, and then they introduce the product. So now, if they haven't copied, they have to prove that, hey, I was also working on a similar concept, but my idea is not based on your patent. I've solved the problem differently. Huh? Yeah, faster filing, in fact, it's not really, get it approved, it takes some time. You have to pay some lawyer fees and all. Sometimes I've seen founders, very smart, they just do everything themselves. You don't really have to go through a lawyer. But a lawyer will help you do the search, make sure that the key things that you're doing is not already being filed by somebody else. So there's a lot of search. But I think today there are a lot of technologies that are available that help you to find these things. And during our times, there was no search, there was no database, all of that. So you have to look at all the documents. So the lawyers used to do a lot of work at that time. But today, if you're smart, you can do it yourself. Yes. Yes.
Sir, I have a question. When I'm clicking some ideas, then like a different sector than like a automobile sector, there are also present a big company like Hero, different. So they also grab our ideas, and because they have also have a public like a customers. So how to survive this type of?
So the idea, if it is very simple, the question is, if you have an idea in the automobile sector, and if you are now competing with all these big brands, and if your idea is disclosed, one of these guys will just copy it and then they do it. That's your problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So number one, the idea is so simple that it's not an idea based on which you can build a company. So it has to be unique. Otherwise, you have to figure out, based on the idea, you build a product and you go and break into some of the customers who want that problem to be solved using your idea. Okay? There will be somebody who doesn't have it, who needs that solution. And maybe if you are lucky, maybe they'll buy you. They'll buy you out. Okay? And it cannot be so simple for somebody to just read a paper and then copy. It cannot be that simple. Yeah. But if you can, if that's all you have, then build it out and experiment with some known people who can adapt your technology, who has a gap in their product, and then go and introduce your product into them, and then let them use it. Yeah. And in the meantime, right, you keep improving your idea, make it more powerful and more stronger. Yeah. The risk. science mitigation, technology mitigation. Yes. Yeah, so in everything there is a mitigation. So I'll tell you, for example, my son is working on a drug discovery mechanism using combination of computer science algorithms as well as bioscience technologies, right? So it's a combination of applying computer science algorithms to figure out what proteins cause the actual problem. And unfortunately, these guys are PhD students, and they have, during their PhD, they have discovered that certain lung diseases have these defects, and lack of this protein results in a particular problem like that. So what they have done is, with this knowledge, they actually created a story, and they managed to sell this story to a venture capitalist who has invested about $7 million in the company. And now, slowly, methodically, they are eliminating that science risk. Very, 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 very methodically. Every step, because they know all the intricate details of the behavior of these proteins. And when the protein is there, what should happen? The protein is not there, what should happen, right? So there is a lot of these intricate details, step by step, they are eliminating the science risk. And once the science risk is eliminated, then they have to bring the molecules that fixes that problem. So that becomes the technology risk. So even with that, I'll give you an example of a combination of a science and a technology risk, where an entrepreneur, this is way back in 1980s. So there was this entrepreneur called Gene Amdahl. This Gene Amdahl was one of the IBM very well-known researcher and a computer engineer. So he created a company called Amdahl Systems. So IBM used to make these mainframe systems, and Amdahl used to make second sourcing of the IBM systems. Because our customers always wanted a backup. Because in case something goes wrong with IBM, they have a backup, right? So IBM also supported this company to survive, excepting they were always 1 year behind. Now, because he was so well respected in the market, he said, I'm going to create a semiconductor about 8 inches by 8 inches. I'm going to put the entire mainframe into this 8 inches by 8 inches semiconductor. So he ended up raising, because he was so famous, he ended up raising, back in those days, in 1984, 83, 84, he ended up raising $225 million. So he burned about $150 million 2 years later. He called a press release. And he said, you know, we actually built the wafer, but there is no cooling technology that can cool the chip. The chip produces so much heat that I cannot cool this technology. So I'm selling it on the company. So then they ended up, the $75 million they had, they ended up buying another company, which happened to be the company that I used to work for at that time. Because we had a product, we didn't have money. So they gave the money, and we gave them the product. And the story is that sometimes when you embark on, even the best of the best people don't know that you can truly mitigate these things. Because that's the hypothesis, right? The hypothesis is, hey, I believe I can. I will try my best. So still you end up actually losing out. But you do your best. Like my son's company, and they're doing their best. They don't know whether they will succeed or not. But all of us are hoping that they will succeed. Initially, you can paint a great vision and you can make somebody very excited about it. How do you keep this motivated, especially for your employees, because they are watching you every day? How do you keep them equally excited, even after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, right? This is a beautiful question actually, a beautiful question. So the way I used to do, this is a huge issue, huge challenge. And what I used to do was every 2 weeks, I used to have all hands meetings. Call all the employees, 5, 10 people, and then 20 people, 30 people, 20 people, whatever, right? Every 2 weeks, without fail, have an all hands meeting. And in that all hands meeting, make everyone sort of part of the discussion. And initially, what I used to do was, okay, here is an opportunity. You share what you have accomplished, that others learn. What are the challenges you have? What are the things you have accomplished? Right? Let everybody learn that as well. Whether it is technology issue, product issue, sales marketing issue, doesn't matter what it is. So you put everybody together. And believe it or not, a lot of people, right-minded people, they like to work in a startup because of that atmosphere. It is not about money. Most of our employees used to make easily 20%, 30% less than what they would have got paid at Cisco or other places. And still we managed to attract them and keep them in the company for a long, long, long time because of the job that they are doing and the work that they are doing. And hopefully everybody understands if company succeeds, everybody makes money with it. So the number one thing, right, that we did was, in our case, we shared the equity with everybody. Everybody was a part owner of the company. So you make them feel, hey, you are a part owner of the company. Number two is the job that you are working on is challenging enough that you are enjoying what you're doing. Because in a big company, if I'm solving a problem, whether I solve or not, company will continue to run. Whereas here, what I do, customer is waiting for your product. What I do will be appreciated and enjoyed by the customer. So that's a satisfaction. So when Bill Gates, when he was creating Microsoft, he used to tell all the employees, guys, the code that you are writing is going to be used by 1 billion people. This is the inspiration. Think of it, right? If you are an engineer working for a company and what you are doing is going to be used by 1 billion people, how do you feel? Do you care at that time? Oh, I'm not making enough salary. 99% don't care. They feel inspired. Exactly. So you have to make them feel. That's why this leadership is when you get up and you speak in this all hands meeting, everybody's eye is on you. How much confidence this guy is exuberating? Is he lying? Is he telling the truth? Is he transparent? Is he hiding things? Right? To watch all these things. And if the moment they lose the confidence, they're gone. I had an incident where probably many of you were not even born when the 9/11 happened. Right? You guys remember 9/11? 2001 9/11?
Yes, yes.
So when the 9/11 happened, our whole company had to be turned upside down because the product we had built was based on certain growth expectations of the internet. And that growth completely was shut down. So we had to make a lot of changes. We let go 50% of the company and we opened up an India office to start added R&D engineering. I mean, we had about 30, 40 R&D engineers there, and we wanted to add more R&D engineers here in India. So, based on so many factors, we decided to keep some 40, 45 people. And then we had to let go of the remaining 45 people that we had. It was very painful, extremely painful. And I called for an all-hands meeting, and I shared the overall game plan and the strategy for all the employees. So there was this one very senior American engineer whom we retained for a purpose because he was an expert in certain areas. So we kept this guy. So I lay out the overall game plan. Right, this is what it is. We are now going to rebuild this product in the next 9 months, and we're going to, based on everything that we have talked to customers, this is the new product we're going to build, and this product is going to be used by these type of customers. So that's the hypothesis. So this guy asked me the question, why should I believe what you're saying now? Because everything you have said till now has not worked. Tough question to a CEO. What can I say? Right? Either he has to believe in whatever I'm saying, or he doesn't believe, then it's up to him. He can just walk out. So I try to give as much convincing answers as possible because we had a hypothesis, and that hypothesis was not because of me 9/11 happened, right? 9/11, I'm nothing to do with 9/11, but the 9/11 impacted my market. So I explained to him, look, this is what it is, and this is the path we're going to go. I did not tell him at that time, if you want to jump off the ship, you are welcome to jump off the ship. But I was still thinking in my mind, if you don't believe in it, you should move on. He actually moved on. But believe it or not, after we succeeded, today, by the way, it's more than $1 billion in revenue. And after we succeeded, we brought the product out in 9 months. We started to make a lot of noise, and then Sequoia Capital actually funded us. Then he calls up. He calls up and he says, hey, that day I did not believe when you said, but congratulations to you and your team for a job like that. So there will be people who won't believe, there will be people who believe, but the ones who believe, you carry them forward, you make them trust in you, and then you trust them, right? The journey just goes on. That's the way. So one thing in leadership is you cannot please everybody. Don't ever try to do that. Don't ever try to do that. You can never please everyone. There will be some people who believe in you, there will be some people who don't believe in you. But you have to believe in yourself and execute on it. That's what leadership is about. Any other question? Only 2-3 guys are asking questions. I want some ladies to ask questions. Ladies, pardon. Yes. Guys are asking, he's asking is, there are certain technology companies, very, very fundamental in creating a disruption in the market. So they may not even have a customer in mind. They may not even have any customers. Why do they still become so well known? A company like OpenAI or a DeepMind they probably did not really have the conventional approach of a customer that we normally talk about. So there are always exceptions when you have some very, very deep fundamental technologies and algorithms that you have the ability to build. And if you build those kind of algorithms, and if you can convince somebody to invest in it, somebody has to be convinced. Because at the end of the day, if you look at even OpenAI, their bill every month to run, all these free things that we all play with OpenAI ChatGPT, cost them $150 million. The computing power that they have to pay. But lucky for them, Microsoft is behind. Because Microsoft saw the use case of this technology. So they said, hey, these are the best of the best of the best people in the world. If there is someone who can solve this problem, I'm going to bet on these guys. And I don't mind paying a few $1 billion. So initially they started off with $1 billion. And go and build whatever the dream that you're talking about. And if you hit the milestones, then I'll give you more money. And that's what happened. So not necessarily you need to convince on the customers, but you can talk about the use case. Actually, the use case that they talked about is very interesting. The use case that they talked about was when we walk into a doctor. Typically, when we walk into a doctor, what happens is that doctor only has 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. So it is true, universally, because the number of doctors to the number of patients ratio is very different in every country, and no matter what, the doctor will not spend more than 5 minutes. So which means in 5 minutes, I should be able to understand your problem, and I should be able to recommend a medication that works for you. How many times you have heard the doctor made a recommendation of a medication and I had this side effect? Or something else happened, and then you rush back to the doctor. Then the doctor says, oh, okay, I did not realize you had allergy to this. So let me give you another medicine. Then hopefully it works, right? I mean, that's how it has always been working. So this OpenAI guy said, hey, this is a problem that is easily fixable. Because if I'm going to a doctor, all my medical record is already available. And if I feed that to a ChatGPT, the ChatGPT has complete understanding of my background. And now, it also understands from market research what medicine has what kind of side effects if it is used with these kind of things. There is a lot of research available. It's not public knowledge. So they have all that information. They have all the information about you. And now the doctor says, hey, you know what? I'm going to prescribe this medication to you for this problem. So his intentions are right. Immediately ChatGPT can say, you know, that medication, or the medication this patient is taking, has these side effects, has these other serious problems. Try to prescribe a different medication. So instead of me taking that medication, taking that medication, having the side effects, having other side problems, and then rushing back, all that can be avoided. So the guys who heard this pitch of the use case, they were very impressed. And based on what I described, it actually makes a lot of sense. Which, by the way, is true. Right? If somebody can solve a problem, even I would bet on. So who do you bet on? People who have that background, people who are like my son. When they went and pitched, VCs will look at it and say, what's the background of these guys? 3 PhDs, from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and look at these papers these guys have published. They worked on exactly the similar kind of stuff. If there is anybody who can solve this problem, it is these guys. So I read it. So conceptually, they may not have had the real customers, but there is a hypothesis to the customer. Yes? What is there for the investor? Okay, what is there for the investor when you go and pitch? Correct. So the investor, there are different types of investors, by the way. There are investors who invest during early stage. So they invest early stage, the valuation will be smaller. So go back on the slide that I talked about. Every risk that is eliminated, the valuation goes up. So meaning for the same money that I invest, I get a higher percentage if the science risk is not eliminated. I get slightly lower equity if the science risk is eliminated, but technology risk is not eliminated. I get even lower ownership if the technology risk is eliminated, the product risk is not eliminated. Right? So, as time progresses, for an investor, when I put the money, for the same amount of money, I get less ownership of it. Because the risk is eliminated. As the risk gets eliminated, I get the valuation goes up. So what does the investor get? What the investor gets is when the company exits. What is an exit? An exit can be my company might get acquired for some good amount, or my company may go IPO and then may do well. And when it does well, my ownership translates into, for my $1 that I've invested, I will get $100 or $500, $1,000 or $1, whatever. That's the risk versus the reward that the investor has. That's what is there for the investor. So you don't know which one is going to click and which one is not going to click. Remember I told you in the beginning, 90% of the companies actually end up failing. Right? So I don't know. But I'm hoping that some of these companies with bright entrepreneurs that I'm betting on will end up succeeding. Yes?
So in the beginning of the session, you told that small companies have a great advantage that they can turn around very quickly. Company can't turn around. For example, in case of Google, when ChatGPT got introduced, the question that arises that better to Google is that if they introduce a platform like ChatGPT, the platform, what would be the investors what their advertising the main. So what kind of big company they carry the fundamentals that if such a case arises that what can be necessary, how can they take themselves out of action?
By the way, for Google, generating the ad in the equivalent of ChatGPT was not the issue. For Google, the issue, the reason why they were not releasing the product was, have all of you used this ChatGPT? Yeah. So when you use this ChatGPT, sometimes the ChatGPT starts hallucination, meaning it goes into this imaginary mode, and it actually even gets into an argumentative mode. Hey, just listen to what I'm saying, right? So it goes into that kind of a mode, and for a company like an OpenAI, which is a small company, when the ChatGPT goes in that mode, you can always say, we told you already that not everything we give you is accurate, right? And they can get away with it. But if Google cannot. The implication of Google doing this hallucination or argumentative that will have a much bigger impact. So that's the reason as to why Google, even though they had the technology, that's the reason as to why they kind of were hesitant to bring the product up. But when ChatGPT came out, they were forced to bring it up with all these disclaimers, right? Similar kind of disclaimer, but I would say the bar, Google's equivalent of the ChatGPT, is pretty good. But the problem now is this ChatGPT got a huge brand name, right? How many people in this world know Bard versus ChatGPT? I would say 90% know ChatGPT, maybe 10% know, like someone like me would know. Because I played tennis with the guy who's the big boss at the bar. So I keep actually having these conversations with him. But the reality is that now Google is in a catch-up mode. But if I asked him this question, I said, how do you actually generate the revenue with this bar, right? Looks like you really cannot advertise. He said, don't rule it out. It's not hard for us to figure out how to put the ad. See, like, because I've seen Google, they had no ad back in 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Google was a customer of ours. How will they survive was the question at that time. But then they solved the problem by coming up with ads on the right side and ads on the front. So they will figure that out. That's not a big deal. But I think the reputation is more important. Correct. You mean if you get into the internet, you now have developed a new. Correct. Correct. But let me tell you, the legal issues that is now opening up for ChatGPT. I don't know if you guys have followed it. So what is happening is because this ChatGPT brings content from 1,000 different sources and summarizes all of that and then gives you the input. Content providers are saying, hey, wait a minute. You know, you are taking my data, and based on my data, you are inferring, you are coming up with this whole answers based on my data. I'm not going to let you use my data for you to come up with your data. No, data is not open source. It's actually, it's like you go to New York Times, you go to Washington Post. I mean, content belongs to them. So, ChatGPT can take hundreds of newspaper articles, and then they will figure out their own summary of it. It's actually not open source. So if all of those guys block ChatGPT from accessing it, no, so that's why ChatGPT's answer is the open source, that is their experimentation. Because they also know that either they have to pay all these content providers or content providers will block it out. But the algorithms are proven now. So now they are saying, not they, market is actually saying, that's why Microsoft is doing so well. So Microsoft is saying, I will give my customers data. Each of my customer will use this ChatGPT and all the data, like call center data, feed it to ChatGPT. Let ChatGPT come up with all the possible answers. Now it's all in a controlled environment. Right? It becomes a beautiful customer service. Exactly. So companies that have enormous amount of data, you train the ChatGPT model based on that. But a lot of right. So that's the advantage that ChatGPT has got. So this public stuff, what we all use, hey, write a piece of code that does this for me. And of course, that is actually open source. A lot of this is actually from the open source itself. But somebody is going to come and block it. They'll say, mine content, I'm not going to let you come in and take all these things and then you make money on it. So it's a very new field. There's a lot of learning going on, and it will be fascinating to see the next 5 years what kind of an impact is being made. Yes.
Sir, as you said on the beginning of the class, that the customer reputation and problem solving, both of them are important factors in a good product or successful product. But if a product is solving problem, but it's not repetitive customers, then is it a good product to go after or not?
So the question is, this is a product, and this product is not creating repetitive customers, meaning I got a fantastic customer for that product, and I cannot repeat the same thing for the next product. So then you are in consulting mode. You are not in product business. So products are, you build a product, and initially, the way it works is you build a product, and there will be some gaps, and you do those gaps for that customer. And hopefully, more customers will also require those gaps that you are doing for this customer. So that at some point of time, like with 10, 20 customers, you have now filled all the gaps. So then, the 11th customer onward, I should be able to sell this product pretty much as is. That's how a product company is always built. So, if you don't build that way, you build a product and then there is all this customization for each customer. Each customer there is this customization. Then scaling is not going to happen. Is there anything wrong in doing that? Probably not. Is that a different business model? Yes. Right? Then you have to think, am I a product company or am I a services company? If you look at, for example, if you look at TCS, is TCS a product company or a services company?
Service based.
It's a services company, right? But if I tell you that for different vertical markets, so for example, in the automobile sector, I've seen it personally myself. In automobile, everything they have already designed modules, hundreds and thousands of modules. How to design the steering, how to design the brakes, how to design the dashboard, how to design the front of this thing, right? Everything they have designed. And now, if I'm Ford Motor Company, I get TCS. Hey, this is my spec of the new car that I want to design. Help me come up with all the things that you are doing, right? The CAD design and all of that. So they'll pull all that stuff and then they'll customize it. But it's still done as a service, not done as a product. But the rate they charge for that service is different compared to just growing the bodies and how. So that's how all these companies are actually evolved into creating these libraries and then customizing it. So there is nothing wrong one way or the other. But you need to be clear in your mind, this is the business that I'm going after. This is my business model. Right? My business model is strictly going to be a services company. Or my business model is going to be a product company. So that's what you need to be clear as an entrepreneur. So what that helps is the kind of investors you have done. Okay, the kind of employees that you have done. So that's where the variable would be. So if you say I'm a product company, you may be able to attract different caliber of people. If I'm doing a services company, you may be able to attract a different set. So don't mislead. Don't tell I'm a product company and attract the best of the best talent who is interested in doing a product, and then tell him I'm doing a services company. That will backfire. So this is the trust that he is talking about. This is the trust you need to establish with your people. So the question is a very interesting and important question for an entrepreneur. Very important question. How in a startup environment, how do you convince a customer? How do you validate your idea with the customer without a POC? Because POC is going to cost money, it's going to cost resources, right, time, all of those things. And I don't have any of that. And how do I convince? So this is how it works. The way it works, I actually have a slide, but I'll tell you about it so that when I put the slide up, you will understand it better. So the idea that you have, what you do is you have to first go and validate the idea with potential customers. Whoever the potential customer is. Right? There is somebody, when I'm building a product, there is somebody that you have in mind will benefit from this product. So go to those guys and start validating. So in fact, right now, I'm going through an entrepreneur who sat in my class at IIT 4 or 5 years ago. And he graduated, he worked for some MNC, and for this guy, right, like many of us, it's a dream for him to start his own company, which he's starting now. So he has come up with an idea, and he's trying to validate this idea. And this idea, the customers that he knows in his mind, somehow he's opening the doors using his IIT connections. I mean, the interesting part, right, today for Indians is a lot of the critical positions are all held by Indians. All held by Indians. So somehow you have to find a link. Okay, if I'm talking to this customer, Ford Motor Company, and if in the Ford Motor Company, this designer of the dashboard is my customer. You can actually go figure that out using LinkedIn. You figure that out who that person is, and then find some sort of a link, and then get 15 minutes of that time. Saying that, hey, I'm trying to solve this. And let me tell you a trick. I myself qualified. If you send me a request, a LinkedIn request, 99% I won't accept. And I'm pretty sure 99% of the people that you want to reach will not accept. But if you send a request with a description of what you are, why you want me to accept the connection, and why you need the help. Some link you have to give me. I will actually open up and I'll read that. And if I find it interesting, I will accept it. It is universally true. So you need to put in effort. That means you need to do research about me. You need to know that, hey, I'm useful to you. And you have to then tell me, hey, I need your help with this. Then very likely you have a higher possibility. This is exactly how this guy is doing. It's an idea, but you need to be very clear. You should have done all the research. It's not just some blind idea. Hey, I'm trying to solve this problem. What do you think of it? Because he will start throwing 10 questions at you. If you have not thought about it, next time he will not give you time. If you thought about it and you start answering, okay, this is, yeah, I've already thought about it. This is how this question is being addressed. This is how this question is being addressed. Right? So then, if I'm listening to you, wow, this thought through all these things. So then I will engage in the next meeting. So the way it works, you have to remember, any meeting is first you get that 5, 10, 15 minutes. And the goal for you in that 5 to 15 minutes, what is the goal? Is to get the next meeting. The goal is not for the person to write a check, for the person to do whatever that you want. They are not going to do it. Your goal is get that first 5, 10, 15 minutes, and the goal is get the next meeting. And then get the next meeting. So each step you convince, step by step. So then you are building a relationship with that person is building a relationship. This is exactly how I told the class, this is exactly how this person is doing right now. And it's fascinating. I mean, he sat next to me when I flew back from after my PhD class last week to Bangalore. He sat next to me and then he showed me on his iPad all the people that he has had conversations with and the notes that he has made. So thorough. Right? So every time when you start doing this, you get better. And you have more confidence answering these questions. So these are some of the tips you will never find in the books. You will never find any of these things in the books. Okay. So we have to break at 1 o'clock or 1:50? What time? You can go for some more time.
I got this slide.
I have a problem which basically solves a lot of problems. So I explain this problem to the investors the first time I meet them. When I explain this problem to them, they don't understand the problem, but when I show them a prototype and actually test the prototype, that's when they understand that this problem actually exists. But getting a first meeting where I can actually show them the prototype is kind of like very difficult.
Okay.
Unless they test the prototype, they don't understand the problem. But when I tell them the problem, they understand it, but they don't see it.
Okay. So, this is a classic problem. Let me define. Those of you who could hear. This is actually a classic problem. Very good question. Very, very good question. So the question is, I have a product that solves many problems. And I pitch this to an investor, to a customer, whoever it is, and they don't get it. They don't understand. But if I show the product, the proof of the product, and the POC or whatever, right? If I actually show the product, then they can say, oh wow, now I know what you're doing. Is that the reaction? Yeah. Okay. So, point number 1. When somebody doesn't get it, think of it that it is not their problem, it is my problem. First, let's correct ourselves. Right? That means I'm not explaining this problem. Point number one. Point number two. What is it in the demo or the video or something that actually fits the listener's mind? Is there one thing that clicks? Are there two things that clicks? Or is this combination that clicks? It's a combination that clicks. If it is a combination that clicks, then you should talk about like how easy it is. It's a combination. But what he did was, he came up with a sentence that said, this is what we do. And immediately he jumped to the value that it brings. And we help to save energy. We help save money. We help save time by doing this computational thing that you cannot do it otherwise without us. But when you do this with us, we help save these things. So go into the value. By using our product, it helps to save you this. I mean, it's not the same. Sometimes you do things better. You do things faster, right? Your people will become a lot more efficient. So whatever the value that your product actually offers, that will easily resonate with people's minds. So shift your description from technology to value-based. Because it's hard, if you explain to me from the technology, I won't get it. And like you, there are 20 other people who are pitching me, right? But if you explain to me from the value point of view, then I will ask, how do you do it? So you got that additional 3 more minutes from me. Right? Yeah. So that's why I played this video. You look at it as to how he made the whole story at a high level first, and then he jumped into the value, all in less than 3 sentences. Yeah. So you got to figure out how to construct your messages. If the listener is not getting the message, how do I simplify it? And a lot of times I've seen technical people, they want to add all these technical jargon, complex words, all of that. No. Keep it to very simple English. Have you heard of this role called product marketing? So the role of the product marketing is this. The role of the product marketing is taking complex stuff and simplifying it to simple English that anybody and everybody can understand. So start reading. You go to a website, right? You go to a website and then you start reading. Does this make sense or does it make sense? So whenever it makes sense, try to follow. What can I take from this? How do I translate my messages into something else? Correct. 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 Exactly. That's why we need to come down to the value setting. In fact, we learned this thing, a program called the Global Immersion Program, where for entrepreneurs from around the world who want to take their companies global, we run a class. So many of them, they sign up, they come, they have to come to sit in the class. So I bring this fantastic friend of mine who's a very good sales guy in a startup company. And in a startup company, the sales guy personality is very different. You have to constantly be discovering And how do you, the presentation that marketing has given, how do you translate that into this particular customer? By simplifying the message, right? So I call him to come and present, to give examples of how he helps to create the leads. And then many of these guys, they really love what he's doing, and then they go talk to him. Then he comes and tells me, he says, man, none of these guys are pitching based on the value that the product has. They are all pitched based on technology. It doesn't resonate at all. What is the value? So it has to be based on the value. That's why I said that in the beginning. Yeah. So if there is one thing that you have learned today, okay, is changing your mindset to how to tell my story based on value rather than based on technology. So then you have learned something. And once the value is recognized, you have need to pay. If I'm going to save a ton of money because of the value that I'm getting from you, why would I not pay you? Right? If you can give me some solution that, let's say, brings down my electricity bill by 50%, if I can see it, why would I not buy that thing? Okay. Yes, my friend.
Sir, as an investor,
I always like the last benches.
sir, as an investor, in which type of company you like the most to invest? For the saying of now market scenario, product based or service based?
What do I see? What do I see? Repeat the question.
As an investor,
As an investor,
you have which type of company you like the most?
oh, which one I like the most?
Most.
Yeah.
Product
Personally,
based,
me.
Personally.
Personally.
Product based or service, and why?
Yeah. Okay. So he's asking a question. As an investor, what do you like? You like product companies or you like services companies? So personally, I do not invest in services companies. It's just me. That doesn't mean there is not another investor who will not invest. Right? Each investor will have his or her own interests, and they stick to that. So personally, me, I will not invest in services. Because services business, to me, is very people-centric. And when it is not overly people-centric, then the challenges of managing the people is huge. Like when you start running the companies, you realize when you have 100 employees, I can almost guarantee 30% of your time goes towards the problems of the people. People will walk into your office, they'll complain, oh, you know, the guy who's sitting next to me, he's talking too loud all the time. And then he is bullying me. And all kinds of stuff, right? Continuously, there will be human issues that you need to deal with. So imagine if you are a 100,000 people company, 10,000 people company. Imagine what's going to happen. So, question is, do you want to handle that or you don't want to handle it? That's the question. In my case, I prefer a product that is repetitive and it can sell to more number of customers and it has a much bigger impact. That's what I like. Yeah. Anybody? Next question. Last question. Suspensions. Get from 6, 7, 10 meters. do you increase the customers? How do you increase the customers? Yeah. So I said in the beginning, 60% of the revenue comes from new customers.
New customers.
40% of the revenue comes from, this is the metrics that I have set. Different companies may have set different. So the thought process, you have to understand the thought process. Why I said 60% and 40%. So 60% shows that at the stage where we were, the growth of new customers was very important. So let's say that we had at that time 200 customers. At 200 customers, which is not that big, I want to grow my customer base to new customers so that this 40% revenue, right, will be pretty substantial. So at 200 customers, let's say I was generating $100 million revenues. Of that, 60 million used to come from new customers and 40 million came from existing customers. So next year, if I grow to 300 million, then my new customer revenue would be 60% of that is about 180 million and 150 million. Okay? But if I reach a stage, like today, for example, if I ask a question, Netscaler probably has 50,000 customers. Can you grow the number of customers at the same rate today? You cannot. Right? So the new customers you add now will be smaller. Will be maybe 5%, maximum 10%. If you go to Cisco, for example, Cisco will not add because everyone in the world is a customer of theirs. So the new customers they add will be very small. Got it? So what they do is when I bring a new product, it's very important to understand. So think of I'm Geo. Okay? Geo has how many people? 500 million users. And in a country with 1.2 billion people, 500 million, you pretty much capture the market. And because you have Airtel, you have Vodafone, you have BSNL, you have all the other guys. If I capture 500 million, I'll pretty much capture a big chunk of the market. So now, can I grow from 500 to 600 million in 1 year? I may not do it. What does Geo do? They keep adding new services. They add video service. They add TV service. They add this, they add that. When I have these customers, I keep on introducing new products. That's what every company does. If you look at Google, I'm a customer of Google. I mean, I'm not a customer, but they make money off of me whenever I use Google search. What's the next product I use? Of Google. Google Maps. Right? What's the next product I use? I use YouTube. What's the next product I use? Google Photos. Huh? Gmail. I use Gmail. These are all the products. One after another, they kept introducing. Every company, you go and look at every company. You just go study Airtel. What did they do? They added one after another, right? So your revenue, that 60% that I talked about, now it's no longer the new customers, it is new products. The new products I introduced. So at some point of time the shift happens. When I'm small, I need to keep adding new customers. When I'm big, then it's new products that I introduce. You see what I mean? Yeah. So as a startup, you need to think of what I said before. Your goal is keep increasing new customers. When you get big, then it's no longer customers. I need to retain the customers and keep adding new products. This year I add one product, next year I add one product, following year I add one product. Every company in the world keeps doing it. You look at Ola. What did Ola do? They started off with taxi business. Now what have they done? They added a scooter. They added Ola Eats. Right? New products. Same customer. I need to use all these things. So just think from that angle. You can trick any customer who has grown from a small company into a bigger company. What have they done by getting additional revenue from the same customers? Okay, let's go have lunch. Good lunch is waiting. We can continue the conversation. I have some more interesting slides. We'll go through some exercises tomorrow, just to keep your mind. I just want to lay the foundation there. Yeah. Yeah.
What we have learned after the lunch is that you mentioned in the morning, there is this company called Bangkok, started with 3 of our PhD students. And of course, they get the first. So now they have become big, so they have raised some certain funding also. But they do so they print, so they are basically a concrete 3D printing company, so that can cater to any requirement in the construction industry. But primarily what they are doing is the Indian Army, where they are printing this prefabricated bunkers for Indian Army, the shelters for their jawans. They are creating G+2 buildings. When I say G+2 buildings, it's just jigsaw puzzle type pieces which they go at the site and fit. Very recently they installed one of the highest habitable structures anywhere in the world for people. So their factory is around half an hour from here. So there is a bus which we went to 20, so we actually see what they are doing and then tomorrow the another change, so the class timing was from 10:30, but we will start at 10 o'clock and then we will have a break, the tea break, instead of at the beginning of class, at the middle of the somewhere at the middle. So we will start at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Let's break for the lunch and assemble somewhere here only. We will guide you to so there is a WhatsApp group. I will share the link to all of you. You can join the WhatsApp group. You will share the content here. In the meantime, while you are trying to create good teams, you share the link and then tomorrow we will be how to start putting that template to create the one.